Okay. So here we go. So here's our agenda for today. We are going to introduce ourselves. We'll see who's on the call. We will do a mood, as we like to do here at Jewish Learning Venture. We're going to talk about the learnings we've had with JKid Philly and our work in the field, and then talk to some of you who have been in the field about your successes, highlighting what we've seen successfully at Beth Israel and Media, in particular as a case study today. And we'll talk about some challenges too. We'll do some reminders, and we'll wrap it all up. Sounds good. So let's see who's here. We have, let's see. We have, so I'm gonna maybe introduce, so what's best when we record, as we know, is to mute yourself. So mute yourself, and I will tell you when it's time for you to unmute yourself so that you can introduce yourself. How's that? I will start. Welcome. I'm Lori Rubin, the Chief Program Officer here at Jewish Learning Venture, and I am joined here today by
Ellen Glassman, and I'm in Program and Engagement, and here to help you with anything you need for Berger.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Advad, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Advad Chatler. I'm the Education Director for Congregation Beth Israel in Media. That's all.
That's all. And Emma is part of Beth Israel in Media, yeah?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
She's our Education Committee Chair.
Great. And she's on the call as well, but I think she's driving. So we'll have you introduce her for yourself. Excellent. All right. Lori, you want to go next?
Oh, she's muted.
She'll unmute herself.
Hi, I'm Lori Green. I'm the Education Director at Temple Shalom in Broomall.
And you're going to be joined by Susan. So you can introduce her because she's going to come in a little bit late, she told me. But now you're muted, so you didn't do that. Unmute yourself and then say who she is.
Hi, sorry about that. Susan Friedman is one of our co-chairs of education at Temple Shalom.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right, Kevin.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Kevin Kleiman, Director of Education at Mainline Reform Temple.
And you are also joined by Gil, I think, yes?
Gil, I believe, is also there. Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. You want to tell everybody who you are?
Hi, I'm Gil, and member and program manager here at Mainline Reform.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys. And we have Leo.
Hi, I'm Leo. I'm the Education Director of Beth Israel.
And we have Alyssa.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Alyssa Cherney. I am running my own organization called Tackling Torah and working with unaffiliated families in the area.
Beautiful. And it looks like Larissa joined us. But you have to unmute yourself, Larissa. Okay, well, Larissa is there, and she is the Educational Director at Congregation Beth El Ner Tamid. I was having a brain freeze. And it also looks like Eileen is joining us, and Eileen represents Or Hadash in Fort Washington. Hi, Eileen. She's also muted, I guess, so we'll just go with that, and we'll move on. But I'm glad you're all here, so many of you from so many congregations. And let's move on. As a reminder, our Berger Synagogue Network was established in 2008 by Judge Harold Berger to encourage and support congregations interested in developing and implementing significant systemic approaches to attract and engage Jewish families with young children to their congregation and to Jewish life. And we're doing that through the Berger Yac network this year, which has 3 levels: a membership level, you're all members; an implementation level, which is where you're going to go and do programs as partner programs with us. And we're going to highlight one that's been successful in the past over the course of this call. And the 3rd level is a congregational parent ambassador model. And some of you have congregational parent ambassadors this year, which is exciting. Those congregational parent ambassadors are going to offer programs on a monthly basis, both for your in-reach in your congregation and to support outreach to new families coming in as well. So we're going to start today's conversation with a limud, a quick piece of Pirkei Avot. Rabbi Tarfon said the day is short The work is much, and the workers are lazy, and the reward is great, and the master of the house is pressing. And so I wonder what this text says about the work of engaging families, or maybe even the work of engaging families this week. Anybody want to comment? You can unmute yourself one at a time.
Well, the workers are lazy. Everybody was kind of sold out by this time, and we still have Simchat Torah ahead of us, and that's a big challenge to maintain the interest throughout the Tishrei.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, the days are short because our weeks are smaller, right? Because we have all these chagim in the middle, and there's a lot of work to do. And it's hard to get the people to come out multiple times. I'm with you, Larissa.
Okay.
Anybody else want to share? Who are the workers and why are they lazy?
I was thinking
sorry.
who's the master of the house,
Or who's the master of the house?
right? Like the master of the house is like the perpetual, you know, it's God, or it's our supervisors, or it's the sense that we need to keep driving ourselves. You know, the calendar doesn't stop even though it's crowded this time of year. Back to your reflection. It's pressing.
It is pressing, and how hard do we press? So I left, we're introducing a new J-Kid Philly parent ambassador in Chester County. And I was orienting her right before this call. And I said to her, start slow, just build relationships. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Just kind of build relationships and do a program that is not so hard to begin with. Because the work is pressing and we're gonna have to keep going, but like, let's start small. Somebody else wanted to comment maybe about workers are lazy? Yeah, Adva.
So my first reaction was to say the workers are lazy and the workers are young families, because if you would ask me 2 years ago or 1 year ago, that would be my comment. But I have to say that I don't know who the workers or the lazy workers are right now, because seeing the amount of new families we are having lately that wants to be engaged in Jewish life and in synagogue life, I can say that they are the workers, the lazy workers, and I know that we are working hard. So I kind of not sure who are the lazy party in our life right now.
Yeah, maybe nobody's lazy. Maybe they're just busy and we have to accept everybody for where they are.
Yeah.
Or just tired.
Or just tired because they're working all the time. I used to get that a lot when I talked about Friday night services when I was an ed director, you know, and I would say, Come Friday night, it'll be great. And people would be like, I'm so tired at the end of a work week. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about because I'm coming. Why can't you come? But the truth is, when you work a full-time job outside of congregational life, you're tired at the end of the week. It's hard to want to come out. So what can we do to get people to
Or
come?
the other thing is, I don't think we should blame ourselves when young families don't come out, as Adva said. The fact is, that's not a measure of how good our program is.
That's right.
Because besides the regular full-time job, there's the full-time job of being parents. And that's
Yeah. So so it's challenging, right? So, you know, are the workers the families, as we've suggested, and are they lazy or are they just busy? And is that different? But what about the reward our congregation is seeking? You know, the reward is great, right? If we can get everybody to come together and build community and be together, the reward is great. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today. How do we get there? Okay, so what can we learn from you? So these are the congregations that have connected to the Berger Yac network this year, listed here. So we can go around, you know, one at a time maybe and think about one thing we can learn from you that you think your congregation does well with engaging families. So we can just kind of go down this list. So Brothers is not represented right now, but Bethel Ner Tamid is. So let's start with Larissa. Larissa, you just got to Bethel Ner Tamid. Tell us one thing you think your congregation is doing well with engaging families.
Actually, like I'm surprised how active probably everybody is. Just in the beginning of the year, there were like 2 barbecues thrown, and that's a lot of work. And we had a great attendance, children-wise. I think that the reward that you are getting is this sense of community and this sense of belonging and of common heritage. We just decorated sukkah. It was not as well attended as barbecue, but I mean, everybody who was there was so involved and had so much fun, and we were doing all together something Jewish, and kids were there, and it gave us a great sense of accomplishment, of belonging, and of community. And I think that's what people ultimately want from the synagogue experience, and that's what Jewish education gives, because as you know, I'm from the former Soviet Union, so I kind of made my way in later in life. And if you don't know what's going on, if you're uneducated, you cannot feel comfortable. My first steps were very tentative and very hard, and to fully belong, you have to be educated.
So, right. So one thing you think Bethel Ner Tamid is doing is providing programs that help people feel like they belong and that are low barrier enough to feel like if you don't know what's going on, you're going to be comfortable. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. All right. So Adva, Beth Israel Media or Emma?
I think we are very welcoming. We have different families that have came into our doors from different walks of life, and it's been really interesting to get to know people. And I feel like our community is very welcoming to different people, different backgrounds, and I think this is our strong suit.
So I'm going to invite us to think really, really specifically, right? If we're going to take one thing, yeah, like something specific. I mean, if you don't have something right now, we'll move on. But I'm wondering one thing that your congregation does specifically to actually engage families. So, you know, maybe like Larissa said, a barbecue was a program that helped engage people because it was low barrier. But you can pass if you don't have.
I will think about it a little bit longer.
Okay. All right. So Eileen, I'm going to let you go next for Orchadash. I know a good answer, but we'll see if you have one to share. But you have to unmute yourself. But you still have to unmute yourself. You're muted, Eileen. Yes, you're muted. There you go.
All right. Technology is my challenge.
There you go.
We provide multiple channels. Our Tot Shabbat is really well attended. There are a number of open houses. We offer a taste of Gan twice a year so that people who have children who would be eligible for the Gan class the following year are invited to come and join for either one time or a couple of weeks. Our Milky Meal program is open to families, and young children also take advantage of, come for that too. And at each event, there are alternative choices available. So if the children aren't taking part in what the main event is, there's alternate things like crafts or coloring pages or books available. Newsletters go out to young families. There's babysitting provided, and we are newly establishing a story hour with the rabbi.
Super.
What was your answer, Lori?
So I'm going to tell you, but one thing I want to highlight really is thinking about the families you wish to engage, right? What is the cohort you're wishing to engage? So with our congregational parent ambassador congregations, we've really thought with each one of them about the cohort you'd want to engage. So you're really focusing on families with kids under 6? Are you focusing on families with kids 5 to 8? Or are you focusing with school age families? Because the different cohorts have different needs. And so Eileen was highlighting some specific things to bring in extra young families, right? So people to come, pre-game show for a congregation that doesn't have a preschool, to provide programming for families that have young children, to then bring them in to preschool playgroup kinds of activities, or Tot Shabbat, so that they become used to the congregation before they embark into the GAN and the religious school. The highlight that I was going to share is at Or Hadash, they have on Erev Sukkot, they have what I would say a 4-part program where we do assemble meals for an organization that delivers meals to homebound individuals, and that is a very intergenerational program where you see empty nesters and young families all together, which I like. And then the congregation decorates the sukkah and has a Sukkot service and eats dinner together. So it's a 4-part series. That was my example. But I will move on now to Leo at Beth Am Israel.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
Well, there are a lot of things that we probably do well, and there are a lot of things that we could do better. But I like to think that most of the things that we do are fun, and most of the things that we do have music in them, which I find that is a big draw to.
Music is a good example of engagement. Sure.
Yeah. And something that I find extremely effective and powerful is one-on-ones. I try to meet all the families and sit with all the families and have multiple touch points with all the families. Usually I find that is what I don't know, convinces, makes members feel more comfortable that that's the spaces they want to be in.
Yeah, they want to connect with an individual or people, for sure. Great, thanks. Let's see. I think we're up to Temple Shalom and Broomall with Lori and Susan.
I don't know if Susan wants to talk, but I'll talk. I would say, especially after this incredible experience we had this past weekend, that what brings families in and engages them is choice and engaging content. And if you're lucky enough to hit both of those at the same time, it's really pretty powerful.
That's awesome. So one of the things that you did this past Sunday was a mitzvah event, right? Where people had different choices of how they were going to connect.
Right. It was a Yom Tzedek for the entire congregation. And we had well over 100 people, and they were in places all over the city. We're working with the Impact Center. And when we did reflect, and plus there was some in-house as well for those families who had younger children who weren't going to make it the whole day.
Right.
But when we did our reflection at the end, there were some things that really, really stood out. And one of them was that there was such flexibility and choices for people of any age to engage. And, that they had all these choices. And I always find that when you do anything with social action, that's something that really engages families. And it's kind of like an equalizer for everybody. So there were a lot of lessons, good lessons we learned from this weekend.
Yeah, so hopefully we're pulling out from these examples the idea that building relationships is important, music is helpful, social justice work is a equalizer, as Lori suggests, that especially when you're working with families of different religions, right? If you have some interfaith families, the idea of giving back to others isn't just a Jewish value, and that people can find themselves in that story.
The other thing I want to add that you just,
yes.
One thing I want to add that you just said, that giving back, one of the things that we learned, which was interesting, was that our people didn't just feel they were giving, they felt they were receiving, because every place they went, they built community with the people they were working with. So that was also a fascinating takeaway.
Beautiful. Susan, did you have something?
So I wanted to add, because last week I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself, that every member of the board is assigned 20 families in the congregation. And we have different points during the year when we contact them. We contact them around the holiday time. we contact them for like special events, like a gala that we have coming up, and they know that we are their board person. And we try to do it in as open and welcoming and friendly a way that we establish a connection with them. So that's another personal relationship that any family can have, whether they're new or whether they've been there for a while. And it's very special as a board member to be able to do that. So I think it's very nice that we do that at Temple Shalom as well.
It's a great example, and I like that it's ongoing and not just, you know, at high holiday time. So thanks for sharing that, Susan. And it goes back to what Leo said about building relationships one-on-one, which really, really helps to build community and connection. Okay, so I think we're going to go to Mainline Reformed Temple. Kevin or Gil, do you want to share a little bit about what your congregation does well?
Sure. I think we educate really well. That we have many, many cohorts where education is the primary thing that people are coming for, and through that, community building, helping to people gain a deeper connection to themselves, their families, their Jewish life. I think we really see our job is to help people engage, you know, Jewishly, just one step more than they're currently doing. Whether it's lending out sukkahs to families, bringing a portable sukkah to their home so they could celebrate Sukkot, doing experiential, engaging things where there's conversation and ritual built in together so families can decide how to make what we're doing meaningful for them. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. There's a different example. I love it. Gil, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I will. I'll add on to. I agree with what Kevin said. I think we do that, and more we're also looking to across our program offerings and thinking about the cohorts that we're serving. That, you know, so in the Sukkah example, you know, there are younger families and, you know, there are empty nesters, for example, who may borrow a portable sukkah, or, you know, we have a mobile sukkah where we're going out to the condos in the area and, you know, really engaging with older members, the prime timers, as it were, and a little younger. So, you know, really trying to engage with people sort of on their terms, you know, to some extent. Does that make sense?
Sure, absolutely. And so I'm going to share the floor with Alyssa to see what Tackling Torah is doing, but also wanted to say a little bit about, before Alyssa talks, I'm going to say a little bit about programs versus engagement, right? So we started out by saying, Larissa started out by saying, you know, the barbecue was a great example of building community, but we want to be careful to talk about the actual engagement, what most of you have spoken about. So I'm just sharing that out loud, right? When we talk about engagement, it's not just a program. All right, Alyssa.
So I'm really new on the scene, kind of. So a lot of what I'm currently doing is reaching out to individual families that I'm working with and seeing what they need. So really doing an intake at this point. So I think that there's a lot to learn from that type of engagement as well, that type of work, because sometimes when institutions get further established, they might forget to continually reassess that need, that each new group of people might have different needs. So I'm really building programs based on need at the moment. And it's so small and intimate that it can be that way too.
Right, but you're right that it's important that just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean that the people that are currently members of a congregational organization have the same thoughts that the people, you know, that set up the whatever had. And so it's important to continue to ask those questions, which is a kind of nice segue to this slide, which says, what can we learn from others? So I have a very quick video from the Jewish Education Project in New York, and they talked to some parents about what parents are looking for. And so I think I'm gonna I'm gonna get to this link, and I'm gonna share it with you. Let's see if it works. I'm gonna stop sharing for a sec, and I'm gonna put on the video, and then I'm gonna reshare. Can you see it, guys? You can't see it?
Today, most parents are looking for really high quality, meaningful programming for their kids, particularly around enrichment areas.
Hold on. You couldn't see it?
No,
I
there
couldn't
was
see
just
it.
You could
sound.
hear it, but you couldn't see it? All right, I'll tell you what. I'll just send it out later. How's that? We can talk through it. It might be easier to send out the link later. But basically, what, now you can see the screen though, yes? Yes, you can see the screen?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you. Okay. So I'll send out the link to the video. It's a 5-minute video that really talks about the 4 design principles that they've come up with in New York. So basically, they talk about parents wanting rich content, high quality programs, not just, you know, a slap together pizza party, but something that's really well designed. And as Kevin suggested earlier, really high quality education. So their design principles here are to empower parents to hear what they have to say and what they're looking for, to support them, to support parents and children to be equally engaged. So sometimes we offer a program that's really geared for the young children, and then the parents aren't connecting to the information. So really thinking through programs when you have multiple generations to find rich content for both, right? To figure out a way to be age appropriate for young children and have something there for the parents as well. And to figure out in your programs to really build relationships with and between families, to provide opportunities every time you come together to figure out a way to connect people. So I noticed in my example of an intergenerational assembling meals situation, we had young children and we had empty nesters together. It was fabulous, but there were no name tags. And so if you were a new person or somebody who doesn't remember names well, that was a missed opportunity. So what I want to say about here at Jewish Learning Venture, we can connect you to partners that might enhance your program. So if you're looking for a high quality experience and you don't know where to go, you can certainly ask us for support. One of the things that we do in this webinar with our Berger Yac network is really to think through what has happened successfully in the years that have passed. You might have noticed that our Berger Yac network has we've been involved since 2008, so we've seen a lot of change in what congregations are looking to do. So here are some learnings. Many of our congregation offer programs that include a parent-child component, so it's not just for parents or children, but parents and children together. And as I said in the slide before, you want to make sure that there's something there, something meaty for the parents and for the children. So it's not just you know, geared for the kids, and it's not just geared for the parents, but it's intentionally designed to meet the needs of both cohorts at the same time. A lot of our congregations have been offering Shabbat programs, and I invite you to think through your Shabbat experiences in your congregational and institutional settings, and whether or not they're formal or informal, and what time of day they are. So, you know, you might enjoy a pajama Shabbat on Friday night, and where the kids can come in their pajamas. You might think about what do the parents of those children need at 6 o'clock on a Friday night? Well, they need their kids to be fed, right? That's a key factor. They're more likely to come if their kids are going to get fed and they don't have to feed them otherwise. They might enjoy wine and cheese, and so maybe the kids are singing over there while the parents enjoy wine and cheese and some schmoozing, or maybe there's a way to do it all together. But really thinking through what the needs are of the cohorts that you're trying to engage with, and then also think through times of day. There are very few congregations that are thinking through programs that start at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, but I find that that's a time when people actually are available, right? Soccer is over, there's no conflict there at 4 in the afternoon, and so maybe in the winter specifically, you can do a Havdalah program at 4, you know, at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon that maybe also involves food and allows parents to still have a Saturday night after that. So you have to think through the needs of your community, and also asking the people who are just coming in the door, you know, what works for them. How do you know when to change it up? How often do you offer the program? These are things to consider. You know, do you offer a one-shot deal, or do you find something that's successful and then do it 3 times during the year or every month or something consistent? And then thinking through other opportunities outside of Shabbat programming. A lot of times congregations think we have taught Shabbat, therefore we have programs for young families. But if you have a family with young children who can never make it on a Friday night at 6 o'clock, then what are you offering for that family? And
Or Shabbat isn't their thing.
Or if Shabbat isn't their thing, right? What would a Sunday afternoon program look like? Maybe it's a gaming afternoon, or, you know, you can think carefully together. And get some parents involved in that conversation. The last learning that we have is getting the whole congregation involved. And so Eileen kind of talked about that a little bit, where you know, the whole congregation is connected to engaging young families. Whose responsibility is it to make the connections with families new to your congregation? Is it your ed director? There's a lot of ed directors on the call. Is it clergy? Is it your membership chair? Should it be only one of those kinds of people? Should it be all of them? How do you know? How do you know who the young families are? And so especially for congregations that have congregational parent ambassadors, if you have membership chairs who have the intake forms of the prospective members, are the, you know, who's reaching out to them? And is it a peer, or is it a congregational lay leader, or is it a congregational professional? And what might that feel like to the prospective members? So if a parent is reaching out, that might feel different than a paid professional. Just thinking through what people are really looking for and how it's going to feel. Any comments or questions about these learnings? All right, we'll move on. So now we're looking at successes from the field. So using PJ Library as a success. PJ Library has an amazing design program. So I'm writing down send video and engaging program slide. They've done a lot of work to really solidify how engagement opportunities can be successful. But looking at what we see here, really thinking through obviously building social connections, which we've talked about a little bit, but to build top down or bottom up, right? So you're all coming from congregations and institutions where you might decide that the best way to engage families is to have Havdalah hayride, right? So you decided this is a great idea. We're gonna have a Havdalah hayride in the fall, and people are gonna love it, and it's gonna be great. But if you don't involve the people that you want to engage with, they might be like, that's a bad day, that's a bad time, don't forget about the Eagles game. I mean, the Eagles game's not Saturday night, but you got the idea. There could be other extenuating circumstances that you wouldn't have thought of. So to design programs from the bottom up, you can do it in this FLIP acronym, right? Designing programs, they will flip over. They have to be fun, low barrier, inclusive, accessible, and participatory, right? So something that's fun, low barrier, inclusive, accessible, and participatory. So figuring out programs, and we'll talk about a specific program and how you can make sure that all those things are included. The other thing that I want to think about as far as key questions here are, how do we measure success, right? Are we successful if we get 250 people out to a program? If the program was designed to just build community and notice that there are 250 Jews in a room, then that might be successful. But if your goal of your engagement opportunities is to build relationships, then a program that is designed to bring 250 people in a room, like a concert or a frontal activity, like a magician, you won't necessarily meet the goals of building community and connections in that way. So really, the key questions you have to ask yourself are what's the goal of the program or experience? And then noticing that you might not see success for many years. So I say this a lot when it comes to congregational life. There are people that flit in and out of your programs that are interested in your Tat Shabbat, or they're interested in your sing-along Shabbat or whatever, and they don't join your congregation because their kids are 5 or 4 or 6. And so sometimes it takes 3 years of continuing that conversation, those connections, and having positive experiences before you see the success of membership. So it goes back to what's your goal and how long it takes to see success. So those are important questions to note. Questions, comments, statements here? All right. So I invited Adva today to talk a little bit about a program that we've seen at Beth Israel of Media called Let's Move. And I'll let her talk a little bit about the program, how it was created, what was the origin of the program, and how it's been successful over a few years now. So Adva, you're good.
I unmuted.
Yep.
Okay, so I think that's also going to go back to your first question before that I wasn't sure how to answer, and I think that will be answering that question as well. Let's Move is a program that we started 3 years ago. 2 years ago. This is my 3rd year in the congregation, so 2 years ago. And we started with a program that we wanted to do that is different than our Tat Shabbat that we offer on Friday night, as you mentioned, and do a program for families that can't show up on that time. And our program is on Sunday mornings, and it contains a half-an-hour session of creative movements for tots and their adult. Can be a parent, a grandparent, any caregiver that comes with them. And that's kind of the anchor of the program. When around it, we offer a Jewish component. The Jewish component that worked because we had our challenge on figuring this out, what was the right thing to do, is offering a short Havdalah service that is, of course, in the level of these tots that they can relate to and understand what's going on and be interesting. And I have to say, seeing a candle on fire and, you know, putting it in the wine and putting it off is really, really a riot with toddlers. So that worked as well. We offered snacks, which is also very great and good for the kids after the program. So to put this all together as the timeline, it was all for an hour. We had landing time because people are always late, so we never started at 10. It was 10. We have snacks and schmoozing and just some coloring pages. Parents came together, got organized, put their stuff down, take off their shoes, kids running around, and then we started around 15 minutes after that, giving enough time for laters to be there. They had a half-an-hour session of creative movement with an instructor that, by chance, she's Israeli, and she brought Jewish component or Israeli songs into the program that really made a connection in that term as well. We had one session about Bereshit, so she used songs that are connected to that. And that's for example. And then they had another like 15 minutes of just, you know, time to let go and get ready and leave. On the 15 minutes in the beginning, actually, that their landing time, that was the Havdalah service. It took like 5 minutes out of that. They had the little circle of names and getting to know each other. And that program was really successful. We had at one time 8 families joining the program. That 8 families, it's a lot for us at the end of last year. That I think 5 of them was totally new to the congregation, knew about this program and joined. And it was just very, very successful. We had, in every meeting, we had some 5 was, I think, the average family the number that attended. And I think this program, our kind of our flag program, helped us build a new community into a Mechina class and into a GAN class. And I think was great. We're really, really happy with that. And if you want me to give the challenge that we faced as well, that we learned from, I can also do that. The beginning, in the first year that we offered this program, we had this session, the 30-minute session. We didn't have Havdalah. We offered, after the half-an-hour session of creative movement, we offered like a parents' coffee club. Half an hour time with coffee, donuts, and a talk with the rabbi. You can come, you can ask questions, thinking that these parents are, some of them interfaith, some of them just non-affiliated and they don't want to be affiliated. But here you go, you can meet with the rabbi and ask questions about parenting or about anything that you can think about. And we found out that people didn't stay. They came just for the 30 minutes of the Let's Move, the creative movement session, and they left after that. We didn't know what's wrong. And we figured that probably the talking part is not what they really want to do. They're not looking for that. They're looking for the part where there's an added value, I would say, that is not Jewish, that is not like come and talk. They're not looking for that. So I think that's what our congregation realized in other programming that we're offering, that is not just here, take this Jewish content that we want to give you because we're a synagogue, but finding the place where we offer the Jewish content that is minor or coming in the subtext, and bringing a place where there's low barrier so they can come and connect with us in another way. So the Let's Move, the creative movement, or in our Shabbat, it's more play and songs and stories, and then there's the Kiddush for the 10 minutes. So I think that's our strong suit, even in a new program that we're offering this year as well. The Jewish content comes in a small dose, and it's more the added content, and it's more taking the great attention, I think.
So thank you, Adva. That's really, really helpful. I'm gonna mute you, I guess, or you can mute yourself so I can talk, but please unmute if we have other questions. I think one of the things I invited Adva to share for a few reasons, and so let me highlight a few of them. One, Let's Move was a Jacob Philly partner program as part of the Berger Network. So one of the reasons why Beth Israel Media saw an influx of families that was not part of their regular community is because they marketed it through J-Kid Philly, and in Delaware County specifically found families looking for a movement class, not a Shabbat, you know, something that they would have done otherwise. It's a movement class for caregivers, and it was on a Sunday morning, which is a time that is really convenient to many both working families and non-working families. So we found success pretty quickly with the numbers of people coming out, but I do acknowledge the challenge that Adva faced at Beth Israel Media, where they tried to do an Ask the Rabbi, and they were like, why aren't people staying? Well, that's not what they were looking for. And I think that's, you know, as Adva said, really thinking through how to give families Taste of Judaism in a low barrier, non-threatening way. And I think that they've worked through that a little bit. And that program is still a good idea. The other thing a couple other things that I would highlight that made it successful. It was an ongoing program. It happened multiple times throughout the year. It wasn't just a one-shot deal. People knew to look for it. And that's important. They used an expert in movement. It wasn't just you know, somebody that could do movement on the side, but somebody who's actually a movement teacher. So a professional that knew how to relate to families and young children. They started out with snack, right? A schmoozy time, because not everybody comes at the right time. People who are coming in late don't want to feel like they're late. They want to feel like they're welcomed. So Starting with Havdalah at 10 after or quarter after, it makes sense. And the sensory experience of Havdalah is a great opportunity for families to connect to Havdalah itself, but also it's a sensory experience, right? There's light, there's fire, there's, things to smell, all kinds of things that make it wonderful. And then the idea that this movement class involved some Jewish content in some ways, if there was a theme for the program, that they could bring in a text or a song or something that's Jewish, and then to have more schmoozy time at the end. So I think, there's a lot to be said for all of that. Before we move on, does anybody have any questions for Adva about Let's Move as a partner program?
Adva, you mentioned Kiddush. At what point did you do that?
Kiddush was, I think, for Tot Shabbat. It's I just gave as an example for our Tot Shabbat program. But we had Havdalah that was in the morning of Sunday morning with our Let's Move.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to move on. So, one of the things we've talked about, here we've asked these questions: how do we measure success, and how long does it take to see success? One way to do that is using tools to ensure success, right? So thinking through a logic model where you can think about what's going to be the short-term outcome of a program, what's going to be the long-term outcome, really thinking through what your program hopes to accomplish, thinking through the goals and objectives and what it's doing and what the impacts are to the participants. This is a tool we can use, and I can send you a logic model as well to help you and your committee figure out what works for you. So I can send you one of those. I think we don't always take the time to sit and think about, why are we doing this? Not because we always have done it, but what is the goal? What do we really want to do with this program? And what's the impact going to be? And then what are we going to do as a result of that, right? If we're building community. So here we go. So here are some challenges we've seen in the field we're going to talk about pretty quickly. Some of them we've already addressed. So we've already talked about what may work with a group of families, may not work with the next group of families. So really thinking through, is the program that we've always done going to still be important to do this year, or should we change it up? Sometimes a challenge is finding new volunteers to assist with new initiatives. And I talk a lot about finding volunteers is easier when you can parse out individual tasks and individual times. So, so for example, if you need somebody to set up from this time to this time and you ask them for 1 hour, they're more likely to say yes, then will you be part of a big committee and be part of an ongoing situation. So finding the right space in the synagogue building sometimes is challenging, especially for smaller buildings. So thinking through space, whether it can be inside or outside or somewhere else. And we've talked a lot about finding times that work best for families. It's not always what you think it's going to be. We've talked a lot about why offering a Jacob Philly Partner Program before. Many of you have seen this slide before, so I will just say, don't forget, Jacob Philly exists. We're happy to help you market programs just like Let's Move. And you can do that in this way, right? So you listen to the webinar, you register the programs on the form. I'll send out the form again. We really would love for you to use our marketing to help bring people into your building. It's a win-win situation, and we invite you to do that using our logo that allows people to trust the brand of Jacob Philly and know that it's going to be warm and welcoming, and they're going to feel welcomed and included. So we invite you to do partner programs in that way. You can hold an unlimited number of Jacob Philly partner programs as long as they're open to the public. So we've shared a lot of information today. I'm wondering if we can just go around, if you have an additional thought or question or reflection about what you've seen, that would be welcome.
Laura, will you be sharing these slides as well as?
Also share the slides for sure.
Thank you.
Lots to share. So as a review, let's see if I can move you guys. Here we go. I'm going to stop sharing so we can all see each other. Yay. So as a review, I'm going to send out the video that I didn't share with you earlier so you can learn what the families in New York said about engagement. I'm going to send a PJ Library slide about engaging programs. I'll send the logic model, the form to register your partner program, and the slides from today. But again, I want to hear a takeaway from each of you. So I'm just going to kind of do that. And so I'll give you a minute. Think about a takeaway you're taking away, something you learned, something you didn't think of before but was in the back of your head and is now in the front of your head. And we'll go around pretty quickly. All right, so.
Hi, it's Emma. I was going to volunteer.
Beautiful.
Great. I was, the way you just put it, like what was in the back of my mind that's now in the front of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I was really struck by the idea of how can we find out the scheduling that really would work the best for our new families that Adva was talking about, that we have been attracting. We can't assume that we know what their schedules are and what they would really like best, and why not Saturday afternoon, and those kinds of questions. So I'm thinking that Adva and I should discuss, do we want to do some type of survey for the families with young children to keep cultivating their interests, like just because they've walked in the door through Let's Move and they've signed up for GAN and Mechina, we need to keep engaging with them and keep asking them what they want out of the synagogue and the Hebrew school and the programming, and be innovative as necessary.
So I really appreciate that, Emma. I have two comments to what you're saying. One is I would hesitate to survey necessarily. You want to think strategically about when you send out a survey, and it might behoove you to instead, since it's not a ton of families that you're talking about, just do a one-on-one conversation. I'd love to meet you for coffee, or I'd love to talk to you by phone. I just have some quick questions. You might be able to help me. And again, be a low barrier approach, not like we want to know what it's going to take. And I'm not suggesting that you were saying this, but you don't want it to sound like we want to know what it's going to take to keep you here till you're 17. Your kids are 17, but more like what's going to work for your family this week, right? So little baby steps. But I think that personal connections and conversations can be really helpful. So I appreciate that. Adva, do you have anything else to share as far as your reflection?
No, but I did wanted to say that Parent Ambassador that you're offering is a great resource as well. Stephanie from day one was working with me, and I really appreciate her, and thank you for doing this program as well. Her support is really great.
Yes. So our Jacob Billy Parent Ambassadors, and you can mute yourself again. Our Jacob Billy Parent Ambassadors can be invaluable, as well as some of you have Congregational Parent Ambassadors that can also be helpful. So I appreciate that. All right, let's keep going pretty quickly because we have another call at 1 on this line. So we're going to go quickly. All right, Leo, quick.
I enjoyed Adva's program that she shared with us. Made me think of what other aspects of the kids' and parents' life stuff that they do already and looking for, and then how can we address it through our organization?
Perfect. Yeah, a movement class is something they're going to look for anyway, and so why not do it here and connect them to our building at the same time? Perfect. All right, Eileen, you got anything?
Yes, I love the idea of a buddy program, either hooking up peers, a young family to a young family, or a board member assigned to a number of families. As Leo mentioned, I think that's a great idea. Also, with Adva's program of Let's Move, I think it's a great idea to have the same component with each program. For example, movement. We tried before, we would have music for one, nature for one, arts and crafts for one, but I think that zeroing in maybe each year on one component is a great idea.
Yeah,
one last question.
The ongoing nature was really part of it.
Right. One last question for Adva. What did you do with your last 15 minutes? Was there a particular way that you closed each week?
No, not necessarily. It was more time for the parents to bond more or talk to each other and form friendships.
So one of the things I would say as a success, right, is the opportunity. You got to build the empty spaces for them to be able to connect with each other in the time
Right.
that they have, right?
Building up the spaces. I like that. Okay,
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kevin and Gil.
I think about, one takeaway was varying what we do year to year and not just operating that we did it this way last year, we'll do it this way again this year.
Beautiful.
So my takeaway is really more of the, remembering that engagement happens between people. I have a tendency to think in terms of what we're offering, and it's really important to make that time for eye contact and, one-on-one, and, and keep doing that.
Yes, it's not all about the program, it's about the engagement. I like that. Thank you. Lori and Susan.
This is Susan. I have to agree that the engagement is very powerful, because if people are engaged, they will want, and my life is all about engagement. So if people are engaged and they're building those relationships, it will follow naturally that they want to participate in many more activities, and that they'll open their minds to the opportunity to try new things. So I would agree with that as well. Very powerful.
All right. Lori, Larissa.
I would just say I totally agree with Susan and everything I've heard. I have lots of ideas and things to think about that are swimming in my head.
Beautiful.
So that's fabulous. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Larissa or Alyssa?
Yeah, well, you kind of brought my attention to the fact that I need, like yesterday, the ongoing program for toddlers. So because they will be a feeding base for school, for their parents to connect, for them to connect. And it cannot be an event, it has to be a program. So yeah. I'll be thinking in this direction.
Great. Thank you. And Alyssa?
I'm just thinking about what type of varied program to have, what type of activity, movement, what the focus is for different times of day. Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, you guys have been very participatory. I appreciate it. If you are an ed director on this call, we have virtual coffee in 1 minute. So I'm going to get off this line and we will get on that line. And I really appreciate all of your participation, and I will send out the information I mentioned earlier by the end of the day. So thanks everybody for giving us your hour today. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you too.
Thank you.
Chag Sameach.
Yeah.